Daniel was halfway through praising his sister when the bank called to ask whether I had agreed to let her borrow $96,000 in both our names. To Vanessa, he said, lifting a paper cup of champagne beneath the stained glass sign I had finished hanging 20 minutes earlier. She took Mara's little studio and gave us a vision for a real family business. People clapped. Vanessa touched 2 fingers to her chest, performing surprise. I turned away from them and pressed my phone tighter to my ear. "I'm sorry. What equipment?" The lending officer repeated the list. An industrial kiln, a computerized glass cutting table, display fixtures for a second location. She needed my verbal consent before releasing funds. Through the open door, Daniel watched me from across the workshop. His smile held perfectly still. He knew who was calling. He expected me to say yes. "Ms. Ellison," the banker prompted. "Send me everything you have," I said. "I'll review it." I ended the call without giving her anything else. Behind me, someone tapped a fork against a cup. Daniel had started talking again, smooth as ever, telling our guests how Vanessa had negotiated with suppliers and made the opening possible. Vanessa stood beside him in a cream jumpsuit that would have lasted 6 minutes near a soldering bench. Our new front window scattered amber and blue light over her shoulders. Juniper glass smelled like citrus cleaner, hot metal, and the rosemary crackers Lorraine had arranged on 3 antique trays after moving my price cards out of sight. She said price cards made an opening feel like a yard sale. I had found them stacked face down beside the mop sink. Daniel caught my eye and tilted his head toward the supply room. Not a request. I smiled at the hotel manager standing beside me, thanked her for coming, and walked past the work tables without hurrying. My keys knocked against my hip. The original workshop key hung from a blue glass bead, cloudy in the center, made from a scrap of the first window Daniel and I had restored together. He followed me into the supply room and closed the door. Shelves crowded us on both sides, copper foil, lead came, boxes of glass marked by color and manufacturer. Lorraine's church auction decorations occupied the bottom 2 shelves, though she had promised to collect them 3 weeks ago. Gold plastic candlesticks leaned against a carton of clear bevels. Daniel lowered his voice. "Why didn't you approve it?" For a second, I wondered if I had misunderstood the banker. Why didn't I approve the line of credit I've never seen? It's not a line of credit in the scary sense. That sentence doesn't improve with context. He rubbed his thumb along the edge of his cup. It was a familiar gesture. He did it when a vendor raised a price, when Lorraine asked whether we were really serving vegetarian food at the wedding, when he wanted the room to tire before he did. "It's equipment financing," he said. "The equipment secures most of it." Most? Mara. Why does the application have my name on it? Because we own the workshop together. We don't own it together. You own some of the equipment and your name is on the lease. Juniper glass is mine. His expression changed at the word mine, not anger exactly, but injury, as if I had denied him a chair at his own dinner table. "We're getting married in 11 weeks. "I'm aware. I paid the florist Tuesday." "That's my point. This constant dividing line between yours and mine is getting weird. You gave a bank my information." He glanced at the door. On the other side, our guests laughed at something Vanessa said. I gave it to Ness so she could put the preliminary package together. Nobody was stealing anything. The bank called you, didn't they? After she ordered the equipment. It's conditional. The cutting table is being built with our logo on it. She got us a huge discount. I stared at him. He set his cup on a box of zinc framing and reached for both my hands. I kept one wrapped around my phone, so he settled for my wrist. "This is what she does," he said. "She moves fast. That's why she's good." At opening credit in other people's names? At seeing opportunities. You know what I mean. "No, I actually don't." His hand loosened. "She's trying to help us." I didn't ask her to. Family never needs permission to help family. He said it gently. That made it worse. Not an excuse invented in panic, but a rule he had carried into the room with him. a rule everyone knew except me. A burst of laughter came through the wall, followed by Lorraine's voice. "Careful with that one, it's original." She meant a green and gold panel I had made for the front display. The glass had cost $400. I opened the supply room door. Daniel shut it again with his palm. "Can we not do this now?" he asked. "There are 50 people out there." "There are 32. "Fine. 32 people came to celebrate us. The banker called during your toast because your sister put a deadline on the application. Then say you consent and we'll go through the paperwork tomorrow." There it was, the real request, stripped of the soft wrapping. I looked down at his hand on the door. He wore the watch I had given him after our first profitable holiday season. The leather band was stained darker near the buckle from years of sweat and polishing compound. There were pieces of us everywhere, ordinary proof of a life built in increments. That was what made the room feel unreal. A stranger hadn't forged my future. Daniel had simply decided my yes was available for family use. "I need to get back to our guests," I said. "Are you calling the bank back?" I said I need to get back. He searched my face, then stepped aside. Vanessa intercepted me before I reached the refreshment table. She hugged me, filling my nose with expensive rose perfume, and spoke into my hair. "I told him you'd get nervous." I pulled back. "Did you?" "You hate surprises." She grinned as though this one involved a birthday cake. "But once you see the numbers, you'll understand." Vanessa was 5 years older than Daniel and had spent 12 years selling medical equipment. She could make a person feel backward for wanting to read something before signing it. The first time we met, she got a restaurant to replace my perfectly good meal because she said the sauce looked tired. She called it advocating. "What second location?" I asked. Her eyes flicked briefly toward Daniel. "We haven't chosen between the two finalists." "You have finalists?" "Just possibilities, nothing binding. You ordered fixtures. Custom orders have lead times. If we wait until every little detail is settled, we lose the fall design cycle." "I have a fall design cycle?" She laughed and squeezed my arm. "See, this is why you need me." Lorraine appeared with an empty cracker tray. Her silver blonde hair was pinned in a twist that had survived heat, wind, and every disagreement I had witnessed in 4 years. "Mara, the place is beautiful," she said, "even prettier than before." Before meant the version I had spent 6 weeks dismantling. Cracked linoleum, fluorescent lights, pegboard walls the color of oatmeal. Lorraine had visited twice during the renovation. Both times she brought bags for Daniel to carry and questions about why the bathroom did not have better mirrors. "Thank you," I said. "I just wish you'd put out more chairs. Doris has that hip." "Doris is sitting at my cutting table." She found a solution. Lorraine smiled, pleased by this evidence of family resourcefulness. "That's what we Mercers do." Vanessa turned toward a couple admiring the front display. "Excuse me, potential clients." "They own the dry cleaner," I said. "Everyone wears clothes, Mara." She moved away. Lorraine watched her go with open pride. "Isn't she something? Daniel said she found you a kiln that can triple production." "You know about that?" "Of course. She was up until 2 working on projections." "Did she mention the credit application?" Lorraine's smile thinned at the edges. "Your guests can see your face." I hadn't realized I was making one. She placed the empty tray in my hands. "Today is a happy day. Let it be happy." Then she kissed my cheek and went to rescue Doris from the cutting table, not because it was covered in sharp tools, but because another guest needed a photograph with her. I carried the tray to the back sink. On the way, I passed the wall where the keys hung. The brass hook marked "spare" was empty. I touched the blue bead at my hip. During the renovation, Daniel and I had kept 1 key each. A month earlier, Lorraine had let herself in on a Sunday morning while I was meeting a client. She arranged 8 boxes of church auction decorations across my work tables, then left before I returned. When I asked how she got inside, Daniel said he had loaned her his key for the weekend. She had used it twice since then. I had believed it was still his. Vanessa came up behind me carrying 2 abandoned cups. A brass key flashed between her phone and a tube of lipstick in her open purse. New-cut silver gleamed along its teeth. "How many copies did Daniel make?" I asked. She looked into the purse, then closed it. "Of what?" "The workshop key." "Oh." She dropped the cups in the trash. "I'm operations. I can't exactly wait on the sidewalk every morning. You don't work here." The lightness left her face. We agreed I'd help with expansion. You and Daniel agreed. I turned down a promotion for this. That stopped me. Vanessa had mentioned a possible promotion at Christmas, a regional position that would require travel. Lorraine had spent dinner describing hotel rooms as lonely and airports as degrading. Daniel told Vanessa she deserved something that belonged to her. "When did you turn it down?" I asked. "Last Monday." The credit application had not been an impulsive idea cooked up for the opening. Last Monday, I had been at the workshop until midnight installing the amber border in the front window. Daniel brought takeout and sat on the floor beside me, reading invitation responses aloud. He had known his sister was rearranging her career around my business. He had asked if I preferred sage or ivory napkins. Vanessa's voice softened. "Look, I know change is hard for you, but nobody's taking your art away. You'd finally get to focus on designing instead of chasing invoices and teaching couples how not to burn themselves with soldering irons. I like teaching. You complain about it constantly. I complain to Daniel. Yes, and Daniel worries about you." The distinction slid neatly into place. I spoke to my fiancé. My fiancé converted my tiredness into a business opportunity for his sister. A woman near the entrance called Vanessa's name. Vanessa opened her arms slightly, as if we had reached a reasonable stopping point. "We'll talk Monday," she said. "I'll bring the projections." "Bring your key." She gave me a long look. "You really want to do this today?" I didn't do this today. For the first time, she seemed uncertain. Then Daniel appeared beside her, smiling toward the room while speaking to me through his teeth. "Hotel people are leaving. I'll say goodbye." "Good. Please do that." The hotel manager, Celia Rusk, had commissioned 12 pieces from me over 3 years. She was standing under the front sign, studying the letters. "This is new," she said when I joined her. I looked up at juniper glass in pale green panes. "Finished it this morning." I meant the name. My stomach tightened. "What about it?" She pointed to a stack of brochures on the entry table. The cover showed the sign against a white background. Beneath it, in charcoal letters, was a line I had never seen. A Mercer family company. Celia's brows lifted, just enough to ask whether she should congratulate me. "We're testing branding," Daniel said from behind us. I picked up a brochure. The paper was heavy and soft, professionally printed. Inside were photographs of my work, including 2 images taken from private client proofs. Vanessa's name appeared beneath mine. Vanessa Mercer, Director of Operations. Daniel touched my back. To Celia, it probably looked affectionate. "We wanted to keep it under wraps until today," he said. "Clearly," I said. Celia looked from him to me. She had the good manners not to pretend she missed the problem. "The window is stunning, Mara. Email me when you've recovered from the opening." "I will." After she left, I carried the brochures to the supply room and put them on top of the gold candlesticks. I did not tear them up. I did not want anyone accusing me later of misunderstanding what I had seen. The party ended at 7. By 7:30, the workshop was a field of crushed napkins, lipstick-ringed cups, and chairs shifted into strange corners. Vanessa left with Lorraine, promising to return early Monday. Daniel locked the front door and leaned against it. "So," he said, "are we going to talk like partners now?" My phone buzzed. The bank documents had arrived. I opened the email while he crossed the room. There were 23 attachments. The first was the application summary. The second page listed the requested credit, the equipment, and the proposed second location. On the fourth page, under Sources of Borrower Equity, I found a transfer for $18,000. The last 4 digits matched our wedding savings account. I looked up. Where's the deposit? Daniel stopped. That tiny pause told me more than his answer could. Mara, he said, before you react, you need to understand how refundable deposits work. My keys were still at my hip. The blue bead tapped once against the metal leg of the work table, a small, clear sound in the empty shop. Show me the account, I said. He didn't move. Open the banking app, I said. You're standing there like I gambled it. Did you? No. Then show me. He pulled out his phone with the wounded patience of a man being searched at his own front door. The app recognized his face. He tapped through 2 screens and held it toward me. Our wedding account had contained $31,412 the last time I checked. Now it held $13,206. I took the phone. Don't snatch it. I'm looking at our money. The transfer had gone to Lark Commercial Supply 6 days earlier, Tuesday morning, 9:14. 40 minutes later, Daniel had texted me a picture of 2 ivory napkins beside 2 sage ones and written, I genuinely cannot tell anymore. You were choosing linens with me after you did this. I was trying to keep the wedding from becoming collateral damage. Collateral damage from what? A business decision. Whose? He pushed away from the door and began collecting cups, as if the conversation might become more manageable if his hands stayed busy. The deposit locked in the discount. Ness had a 48-hour window. So she created a deadline. The manufacturer created the deadline. Vanessa ordered a custom machine before the financing existed. It's standard. For which one of you? The medical equipment salesperson or the payroll manager? He dropped 3 cups into a trash bag. One bounced out and rolled beneath the display bench. Daniel had handled payroll and vendor invoices for almost 2 years. At first, he did it because I was 3 months behind on everything except the actual glasswork. Then he got good at it. He built spreadsheets with color-coded tabs and set reminders that sounded like jokes. Pay the electric people so the kiln doesn't become furniture. I had loved opening those emails. They felt like care. Let me show you the projections, he said. I want to know whether the deposit is refundable. Mostly. How much is mostly? If we cancel for no reason, we lose 8. 800? He looked at me. I set his phone on the work table because I no longer trusted my hand. $8,000. We're not canceling. The bank hasn't approved us. They were waiting for your consent. You could have done it in 2 minutes. And if I don't? He tied the trash bag too tightly. The plastic stretched around the knot. Then we lose money we don't need to lose. Vanessa has no position, and we look unreliable to a supplier we'll need when we expand later. I'm asking you to think past the fact that nobody brought you in soon enough. Nobody brought me in at all. I admit that part was mishandled. Mishandled is sending the invitations to the wrong address. You used our wedding fund to trap me into signing a loan. His face sharpened. I did not trap you. What happens if I say no? You hurt all 3 of us. That's the trap. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he bent, retrieved the cup from beneath the bench, and placed it carefully in the bag. You've spent 6 years saying you want this place to succeed, he said. But every time success asks you to change something, you call it a violation. The cruelty of it was in how closely it resembled a conversation we had actually had. I had told him I was exhausted. I had cried once at our kitchen table after ruining an expensive pane because I was answering a vendor call while cutting it. I had said I couldn't keep being the designer, fabricator, teacher, receptionist, and janitor. Daniel had held my feet in his lap and said, "Then let me help you build something that doesn't eat you alive." I had not understood that he considered my exhaustion permission. "Give me your key," I said. He laughed once without humor. "We're both on the lease." "I said your key." "No." "Then give me the copies you made." "Mara, stop." "How many?" His silence answered before he did. 3. Vanessa, Lorraine, and an emergency copy at home. I want them back. Mom stores things here. Not anymore. She helped clean before the opening. She moved my prices and spent 4 hours arranging crackers. Why do you always reduce what people do for you until it sounds ridiculous? I picked up my bag from under the register. Where are you going? Home. We came together. You can clean up. It's what people do for me. I drove for 20 minutes before realizing I was headed in the wrong direction. At a red light, I found one of Lorraine's gold cocktail napkins stuck to the heel of my hand. LD had been stamped in the corner for Lorraine and Dennis's 40th anniversary. She had ordered too many and supplied them for every family event since. At our engagement dinner, the same initials sat beneath the cake plates, and Lorraine joked that Daniel and I only needed to reverse them. The light changed. Someone honked. I pulled into a gas station and read the application on my phone. Vanessa had listed herself as operations director. Daniel was financial manager. I was creative director and principal guarantor. The projected revenue was nearly triple what Juniper Glass had made the previous year. Under committed contracts, they had included Celia's hotel renovations, the chapel restoration on North Briar, and a restaurant project that had only requested an estimate. My signed agreements were attached as proof. I called the number in the banker's signature. Voicemail. "This is Mara Ellison," I said. "I do not consent to the application submitted in my name. Please place that in the file. I'll send it in writing as well." I listened to my own message before sending it. My voice sounded calm. It frightened me more than shouting would have. Daniel was home when I arrived. He had put the leftover food in our refrigerator and lined the champagne bottles along the counter. His dress shirt was unbuttoned at the throat. For one foolish second, the sight of him there, ordinary, tired, carrying a tray of cheese toward the fridge, made me want the day to rewind. "I emailed the bank," I told him. The refrigerator remained open. "What did you say?" "That I didn't authorize the application." He set the tray down. "You couldn't wait until morning?" "You had 6 days." "This affects my credit, too." "Yes. And you made that decision alone." I looked at him. He closed the refrigerator. "Okay, I heard it." "Did you?" "I heard it as soon as I said it." He sat at the kitchen table and pressed both hands over his face. His shoulders dropped. The anger went out of the room so quickly that I didn't know where to put mine. "I messed up," he said through his hands. I waited. He lowered them. "Ness said the bank needed both of us on the preliminary application because of the lease and shared expenses. She said nothing would be final until they spoke to you. I told myself it was like getting pre-qualified. She ordered the equipment. After I moved the deposit, you keep putting your own decisions in sentences where Vanessa is the subject." That reached him. His mouth opened, then closed. "I moved the money," he said. "I gave her your tax returns. I thought if you saw the whole plan instead of hearing half an idea, you'd be excited. You thought I'd say no. I thought you'd say not yet. And you wanted now." "Yes." The answer was so plain I had to sit down. He pulled the chair beside mine closer but did not touch me. "I don't want to steal your business. I want a life where we're not canceling dinner because a client changed a border color. I want to take a week off without you packing glass samples. I want the house we keep saving pictures of. Ness knows how to scale. I know the finances. You're brilliant at the part nobody else can do." It was the best argument he could have made because pieces of it were true. "And your mother?" I asked. He gave a tired sigh. "What about her?" "She has a key. She stores things there. She promises discounts to people I've never met. My workshop has been turning into Mercer property by inches, and every time I object, you make me feel petty. Mom gets excited. So do burglars." He almost smiled. I almost did too. That was another danger between us. We knew how to find the old rhythm even with a knife on the table. "Give me 48 hours, he said. "I'll get the deposit terms, all of them. We'll sit with Vanessa. If the numbers don't work, we walk away. The bank already has my answer. You can change it. I know. Relief moved across his face too soon. I'm sleeping at the workshop tonight, I said. The relief disappeared. Don't do that. I need space. Then I'll go to Mom's. I need space from your family. He stood. I am not my family. No, you're the person who keeps opening the door for them. I packed an overnight bag while he called Lorraine from the kitchen. He spoke softly, but our apartment was small. She found out, he said. Not I told her, not we had a fight. She found out. At the workshop, I unfolded the narrow cot I kept for late kiln firings. A smear of frosting had dried on the floor beside it. I scrubbed it with the heel of my shoe, then gave up and lay down in my clothes. At 12:38, Lorraine texted, "Please don't punish Vanessa for believing Daniel's promises." A second message followed, "And please don't make permanent decisions from a place of humiliation." I turned the phone face down. The blue bead on my key glowed faintly beside my head whenever headlights crossed the front windows. By 8 the next morning, Vanessa was outside with coffee and a white binder. Her key opened the front door before I reached it. "I asked you to bring that back." And I came to talk. She set 1 coffee on the counter. Oat milk, 1 sugar. She knew my order. "You can take the key after." "I can take it now." She removed it from her ring and placed it beside the register. The gesture was so easy that it made me distrust her more. The binder contained sales forecasts, staffing models, neighborhood maps, and a 12-month expansion schedule. Much of it was thoughtful. The proposed second location sat in a wealthier district near 3 interior design firms. Vanessa had documented inquiries I had forgotten answering. She knew which workshops sold out fastest and which products carried the best margins. "You did all this without talking to me," I said. "I tried. Every time I mentioned expansion, you said you were busy. You once asked if I'd ever consider a second studio. And you said maybe in a few years. That isn't a plan." "It's my answer." She folded her hands. "Daniel asked me to build one. Daniel doesn't own my answer. No, but he owns part of the risk. He's put 5 years into this place. 2. He was helping you before he was officially on anything. He also got paid. Less than he could make elsewhere. So did I. That's how a new business works." Her composure slipped. "You think I don't understand sacrifice? I think you made yours before checking whether the job existed." Daniel promised it did. There it was again, small and hard, the fact neither of us could maneuver around. I pushed the binder back. "Then he owes you an explanation." "He owes me a job. He can't give you mine." Vanessa looked down at the cover. "I don't want your job. You printed your title on my brochures because someone has to sell what you make. I have clients. You have people who like you enough to tolerate 6-week estimates and invoices sent at midnight." The bell over the door rang. Evelyn Park stepped inside carrying her tool case and stopped when she saw us. Her gaze moved to the binder, the untouched coffee, and Vanessa's key on the counter. "Good opening?" she asked. "Beautiful," Vanessa said. "Educational," I said. Evelyn nodded as if that sounded more likely. She had maintained my kilns for 3 years and treated every heating coil as personally disappointing. "I'm here about the rear unit. Daniel said it's running cold." "It is." Vanessa brightened. "Perfect timing. I'd love your opinion on the new one." Evelyn looked at me first. I said, "I haven't approved a new one." Vanessa's smile tightened. "We're discussing it." "The 30 cubic foot Lark?" Evelyn asked. I turned to her. "You know about it?" "They called me Thursday about installation." Vanessa began straightening the binder's corners. "What did you tell them?" I asked. Evelyn set down her case. "That this building can't power it." Silence settled over the front room. Vanessa's fingers stopped. Evelyn glanced between us. "I sent Daniel the electrical requirements and an estimate for the upgrade, 12 to 15,000, assuming the landlord allows it." "That wasn't in the application," I said. Vanessa stood. "It's part of the second phase build-out. The application says the kiln goes here. It can after improvements." Paid for how? She picked up her coffee and left mine where it was. You wanted all the details, she said. Now you have them. No, I have the details the bank called me before you could hide. The words landed. Vanessa looked toward Evelyn, humiliated by the witness, then back at me. You're going to regret making me your enemy over a fixable mistake. I'm not making you anything. She walked out without taking the key from the counter. Evelyn waited until the door closed. Should I come back? No, please fix the kiln I actually own. She crouched beside the rear unit and opened her case. My laptop chimed on the desk. 3 automatic notices had arrived from the booking system, each confirming a canceled fall workshop. A 4th email came from Celia. Mara, I received an expansion announcement from Vanessa this morning. Before we move forward with the lobby commission, I need clarity about who controls design approvals and whether Juniper Glass is undergoing an ownership change. I read it twice. Across the room, Evelyn removed a blackened connector from the kiln and held it up. This is why it's running cold, she said. Small piece. Whole thing stops trusting the current. I reached for my blue beaded key, but it wasn't at my hip. It was still on the cot, behind a door 3 other people could open. I crossed the room, took the key from the cot, and slid it into my pocket. Then I picked up Vanessa's copy from the counter. Do you know a locksmith? I asked. Evelyn looked up from the kiln. I know 3. Occupational hazard. The first one couldn't come until Thursday. The second said he could be there in 2 hours, though he warned me that changing the front cylinder might violate the lease. Does your landlord require copies? He asked. Yes. And how many tenants are named? 2. Then both tenants have access rights unless your lease says otherwise. It didn't. I knew that before he said it, but hearing it from a stranger made the floor feel less solid. Change the back door in the stockroom, I said. I'll deal with the front. I changed the alarm code myself. Then I went through every service connected to Juniper Glass. Booking platform, payment processor, client database, business email, cloud storage. I removed Vanessa from the mailing account she had apparently been using since Thursday and revoked Daniel's administrative access everywhere I legally could. New payments would go into the business account in my name instead of the joint operating account Daniel monitored. At 11, I called the florist and asked her to suspend the next wedding payment. Is everything all right? She asked. No. There was a pause, professional and kind. I can hold the date for 7 days without the installment. After that, the contract gives me the right to release it. Hold it. The next call was to the caterer, then the rental company. Each conversation removed one more piece from a day that had been approaching with the force of weather. The wedding did not disappear. It became conditional. The bank called back at noon. The lending officer's name was Paula. She spoke carefully now. We've placed the application under review. No funds will be released, and no additional action can be taken under your name without direct verification. Can you remove me? We'll need a written identity dispute form. I'm sending it now. I sent an email last night. We have it. This is the bank's formal process. Will Daniel and Vanessa be notified? They're applicants. They'll receive notice that the file is incomplete. Incomplete? I'm not making a determination while we're on the phone, Ms. Ellison. I'm telling you the application cannot proceed as submitted. The distinction mattered to her. It mattered to me too. I had spent all night thinking the truth would move through a bank like a switch, unauthorized, therefore stopped. Instead, it moved through forms, reviews, and words, chosen not to promise too much. How long does that take? I can't give you an exact timeline. After we hung up, I completed the form and attached the email where Daniel had admitted giving Vanessa my tax returns. I read his words 6 times before including them. I thought you'd want the bank to see a complete picture. He had sent that at 1:07 in the morning, followed by a heart and please come home. At 1, Lorraine's friend Doris arrived carrying a lampshade frame. Your mother-in-law said you could redo this for 60, she said. She isn't my mother-in-law yet. Doris blinked. Did I say something wrong? Yes, but Not the part you think. The shade required 12 panels, new hardware, and at least 4 hours of work. My normal price would have been $320. I can do it for $300, I said. Lorraine said $60. Then Lorraine can do it for $60. Doris studied my face. You know, she talks about this place like it's hers. I know. She talks about everything like it's hers. Doris tucked the frame under her arm. That's why we don't let her organize book club anymore. It was the first useful thing anyone had said to me all day. At 2, a delivery driver brought 11 boxes of glass I hadn't ordered. Daniel's supplier login was printed on the packing slip, but the invoice named Juniper Glass. I refused delivery. At 2:15, he called. Why did you turn away the Oceanside order? Because I didn't place it. It's stock. We need it. What job is it for? The mass production samples. I gripped the phone. What mass production samples? He went quiet. Send me the purchase order, I said. There isn't one yet. Then we don't need the glass. We need to demonstrate capacity. To whom? Mara, I'm trying to protect the business while you're tearing out its wiring. You tried to put nearly $100,000 of debt through in my name. I'm unplugging you. You locked me out of payroll. Payroll is due Friday. Send me the hours and I'll run it. You don't know how. I did it before you. You did it late. Send me the hours. He exhaled hard. I'll come by tonight. Bring your key. I'm not giving up access to equipment I own. Then bring a list of it. He laughed, genuinely surprised. You want to divide the soldering irons now? I want to know what you consider yours. This is insane. No, this is inventory. He hung up. At 3, the locksmith replaced the back cylinder. He had just finished when the landlord arrived with Daniel beside him. Leonard was 70, wore suspenders without irony, and regarded conflict as an unpaid invoice. You can secure the stockroom, he told me, but Mr. Mercer remains a named tenant. He gets a front key and an alarm code. I didn't change the front. You changed the alarm, because copies were distributed without my permission. Daniel held out his hand. I need the new code. The locksmith pretended to study his receipt. I gave Daniel the code. He entered it into his phone, then looked at Vanessa's key on the counter. Where's the third copy? Your mother has it. He frowned. No, she returned hers to me last month. Then who has the third? For a moment, neither of us spoke. Leonard cleared his throat. I'm going to need an updated certificate of insurance by the 1st. He left with the locksmith. Daniel picked up Vanessa's key and set it down again. Maybe I miscounted, he said. You didn't. I'll find it. Get your family's boxes out of the stockroom before 5. My family. Yes. They were going to be your family too. The word were hung between us. Daniel's anger faltered. Did you cancel the wedding? I paused payments. You did that without talking to me? I didn't spend the money. I stopped spending it. We have contracts. So did I. You attached them to a loan application. He sat at the nearest work table, suddenly pale. I'm sorry. I had wanted those words for almost 24 hours. When they came, they felt too small to pick up. For what? I asked. All of it. That's not an answer. For moving the deposit, for giving Ness your records, for not telling you about the brochures. The clients? His eyes shifted. How many clients did you contact? Ness contacted them. You knew. We wanted to find out whether there was demand for a larger run. With my designs. With licensed versions of them. Licensed by whom? We never got that far. You got far enough to order glass. He leaned forward. Please listen. There's a hotel group opening 6 properties. They want a consistent botanical panel in every lobby. If the sample works, it could be the biggest contract we've ever had. Which botanical panel? His silence told me. The juniper window? It's the brand. It's mine. So license it to the company. I am the company. That's the problem, Mara. He said it softly. He seemed tired, even sad, as though my ownership were a structural flaw he had tried to repair. I pulled Lorraine's boxes from the stockroom and stacked them by the front door. Daniel watched me carry the gold candlesticks, ribbons, and folded tablecloths. "You're being theatrical," he said. "I need the shelf space." "For what?" "My work." Lorraine arrived 20 minutes later in a navy cardigan and house slippers. Daniel must have called her while loading the first boxes into his car. She stood on the sidewalk beside her decorations. "You put my things outside?" "The weather's clear." "They could have been stolen." "You have a key." Her chin lifted. "Daniel gave me one for emergencies. Return it." She opened her purse, removed a brass key, and pressed it into my palm. "Happy?" "No." "Well, at least we found an honest answer." Daniel came out with another box. "Mom, please." "No. She wants everyone to perform repentance before she decides whether we're worthy. I want people to stop entering my workplace. I have never taken one thing from this shop. You've taken time, storage, materials, and the authority to promise my work. I sent you customers. You sent me obligations." Lorraine's face changed. Beneath the offense was something more complicated, genuine disbelief that favors could become debts when the recipient stopped being grateful. "I thought you liked being needed," she said. The sentence found its mark because I had. For years, being needed had felt close enough to belonging that I accepted the substitution. "I did," I said. "You all counted on that." Daniel put the final box in his trunk. Lorraine got into her car without saying goodbye. He remained on the sidewalk. "Come home tonight," he said. "I'm working. After. I'm staying with my friend Rachel." His jaw tightened. "You told someone." "I needed somewhere to sleep." So now our private business is with Rachel. Our private business was sent to a bank. He looked through the front window at the work tables, the sign, the empty hook where the spare key had hung. "I'll get the deposit back," he said. "All of it." "How?" "I'll handle Vanessa." The confidence in his voice made me uneasy. "You should have handled yourself." He left. Evelyn returned the next morning with the replacement connector. While the kiln heated, she stood beside it with her arms crossed, listening for the relay. "Lark called me again," she said. "What did they want?" "To know whether I'd reconsider certifying the installation plan." "And?" I said, "Electricity remains electricity." I smiled despite myself. She glanced at me. "Vanessa told them the service upgrade was already approved." "By the landlord?" "Supposedly. Leonard would charge us for breathing near the panel box." That was my thought. The relay clicked. Heat began climbing through the chamber. Evelyn opened an email on her phone and held it out. Her original message to Daniel was dated Thursday morning. The subject line read, "Installation not viable without service upgrade." Beneath it, he had replied, "Understood. Please keep this preliminary until financing is secured." "Forward that to me," I said. "You planning to sue someone?" "I'm planning to know what happened." She slipped the phone into her pocket. "I don't want to be in the middle. You already are. They used your name as the installer. I didn't approve that. Now you know how it feels." She winced, and I regretted the sharpness immediately. "Sorry," I said. "No, you're right." She looked at the glowing temperature display. "I thought Vanessa might be good for this place. You need help." "I do. But help should know which direction the current runs." She forwarded the email. An hour later, Celia forwarded me another. The thread began 3 weeks earlier. Daniel had written from his Juniper Glass address, offering exclusive early access to our scalable signature collection. He attached my Juniper design and suggested adapting it for multiple hotel properties. Vanessa followed with pricing tiers based on volume. Celia's last message was brief. "I held this because I assumed you were involved. Your reaction at the opening changed that assumption. The lobby commission is paused until ownership and approval authority are clear. Below it, Daniel had promised delivery dates I could not meet and prices that barely covered materials. By noon, 2 other clients had paused projects. My supplier account no longer accepted my password. The payroll file Daniel sent was missing overtime hours from my assistant fabricator, and when I asked for the corrected report, he told me he was in meetings. I spent 6 hours rebuilding records from timesheets and bank transactions. I paid payroll 11 minutes before the processing cutoff. At 7, Daniel came through the front door using the key Leonard had required me to provide. He carried a folder and a cashier's check. $18,206, he said, placing it on the table. Every dollar. I looked at the amount. Where did you get it? I cashed out an investment account. Your retirement account? My money. My choice. He slid the folder toward me. Inside was a cancellation agreement for the equipment order, signed by Vanessa. The restocking loss was assigned to Daniel personally. She agreed to walk away? She agreed to let me make this right. I wanted to believe him. That was the humiliating part. Even after the brochures and the passwords and Celia's email, hope moved toward him before judgment could stop it. I removed her from everything, he said. No title, no expansion, no client contact. I'll send you every password tonight. We'll mediate the equipment and the lease if that's what you want. What do you want? You. He pushed his key across the table. Its teeth scraped softly against the wood. My mother wants us all to have dinner tomorrow, he said. Neutral ground. No work talk unless you bring it up. Your mother's house isn't neutral. Then the Italian place on Grant. 7 o'clock. I touched the cashier's check but did not pick it up. After dinner, he said. If you still want me out, I'll go. The blue bead rested against my palm in my pocket. Bring every document, I said, not just the ones you want me to see. The Italian place on Grant gave us a round table beneath a framed photograph of the owner shaking hands with a retired quarterback. Lorraine had arrived early enough to choose the seat facing the door. Vanessa sat beside her with a glass of red wine she hadn't touched. Daniel stood when I approached. He looked as though he had expected me not to come and resented how relieved he was. I ordered sparkling water, he said. I can order for myself. The waiter appeared, sensed the temperature, and disappeared again. A brass key lay in the center of the table beside the breadbasket. Daniel's key. Lorraine had placed it there like evidence in a trial she intended to conduct. I found it on my kitchen counter, she said. Daniel told me he surrendered it. I did, he said. To prove what? That you're no longer welcome in the business you helped build? He offered to leave, I said. He offered because you backed him into a corner. Vanessa finally lifted her wine. Can we not do the martyr portion before appetizers? Lorraine turned on her. Your brother emptied his retirement account because you ordered equipment you couldn't pay for. He moved the deposit, at your request, at his suggestion. Daniel closed his eyes. This is going well. I put my bag on the empty chair beside me. Where are the documents? He slid a folder from beneath his coat. It contained account passwords, supplier contacts, payroll procedures, and an equipment inventory. Some items had notes in his handwriting. Mara paid 60%. Gift from Evelyn. Purchased jointly. He had done what I asked. Thoroughly. The wedding account statement was clipped to the back, showing his cashier's check deposited that afternoon. There, he said. Everything restored. Vanessa laughed into her glass. What? I asked. Nothing. Ness, Daniel warned. She set down the wine. Did he tell you why I signed the cancellation? He said you agreed to let him make things right. I agreed because he guaranteed my losses. Daniel's hand closed around the edge of the table. We are not doing this. You're asking me to walk away from the job you promised, reimburse the vendor, and crawl back to people I turned down. You don't get to stage your noble sacrifice with money that only fixes Mara's side. What guarantee? I asked. Lorraine looked at Daniel. For the first time that evening, she seemed unsure which of her children required protection. Vanessa opened her purse and removed a folded document. Daniel reached for it. She passed it to me first. It was a financing proposal for a new company called Mercer Studio Operations. Daniel was listed as managing member and personal guarantor. The amount was smaller than the bank application, but large enough to complete the equipment purchase and pay Vanessa for 6 months. Near the signature page was a spouse acknowledgement. The document was dated that morning. I read it again, thinking I had missed a word that would turn it into something else. "We aren't married," I said. "Not yet," Vanessa replied. Daniel's voice stayed low. It was a contingency. "For after the wedding?" I asked what options existed if the bank closed the application. That's all. Vanessa leaned toward me. "He said once you two were married, you'd calm down. He said he could explain the acknowledgement as part of reorganizing the business." "I never said it like that." "You said she wouldn't walk away from a wedding over one signature." Lorraine reached for the document. I kept my hand on it. "Daniel," she said, "tell me this is old." "It's not signed." "That wasn't my question." He looked at me. "I wasn't going to use it." "You requested it this morning." "I requested options before I came to the workshop. Then I saw you. I saw what this was doing to us, and decided to choose me?" "Yes." "Until when?" I gave up my key. I cashed out my account. "You moved money from one pocket to another. You gave up a key the landlord already made me replace. And while you were telling me you wanted me, you had a plan to wait until I was legally harder to separate from your debt." He glanced around the restaurant. 2 tables away, a man twirled pasta onto his fork while pretending not to hear. "I was scared," Daniel said. "I was trying to keep every door open." "You keep doors open by giving your family keys." The waiter arrived with the sparkling water and 4 menus. Lorraine told him we needed a minute. "I asked for one dinner," Daniel said when he left. "One chance to talk without you turning every sentence into proof." "The proof is in my hand. It is an unsigned proposal. It tells me what you think marriage is for." Lorraine took a slow breath. "Marriage is partly financial. Pretending otherwise is childish. For you," I said, "it's territorial." Her eyes hardened. Daniel pushed his chair back. "Don't attack my mother because you're angry at me." There it was, immediate and instinctive. Even now, with his plan open on the table, he knew whom marriage required him to protect. I removed my engagement ring. He stared as I placed it on top of the spouse acknowledgement. "Mara." "The wedding is off." Lorraine whispered my name as if I had broken something in church. Daniel didn't touch the ring. "You don't mean that." "I do. You said we'd talk." "We did. This is my entire life." "No, it was mine too. You just kept borrowing against it." I stood, took the folder of business records, and left the proposal beneath the ring. Outside, rain had begun spotting the sidewalk. I reached for my keys and the blue bead slipped through my fingers before I caught it. Behind me, the restaurant door opened. Daniel came out without his coat. "The bank scheduled a verification call tomorrow at 10. I kept walking. "They need all 3 applicants present," he said, following me. "If we withdraw together, the file closes cleanly." "I already withdrew. They're reviewing your identity dispute. That's different." "Then tell them what you did. If you say you knew about the expansion and the disagreement was about timing, they'll let us revise the application." I stopped beneath the awning of the store next door. "You're still asking me to approve it." "I'm asking you not to characterize me as someone who stole your identity. You gave my tax returns to Vanessa to apply for financing for our business. My business." His face crumpled for half a second, then tightened again. "If the bank flags the application, I could lose my job. I manage financial records, Mara. Vanessa could lose her chance to go back into medical sales. The vendor could sue us." "Us?" He looked at the rain. "You still think the consequence belongs to whoever refuses to prevent it," I said. "I think people who love each other try to limit the damage." I tried. The first time I said no. He stood under the awning as I walked to my car. At 10 the next morning, I sat at my work table with the bank documents arranged in front of me. Evelyn worked in the rear, cutting replacement insulation for the kiln. She had offered to leave. I asked her to stay. At 9:58, Daniel entered with Vanessa. He no longer had a key, so I had let him in. Vanessa wore a dark suit and carried the white binder. Her face looked emptied out, all the sales confidence packed away for another room. "We should agree on language," she said. "No. The bank isn't asking us to settle family issues." "I know what they're asking." Daniel sat across from me. His eyes went to my bare hand. The call came through the workshop phone on speaker. Paula introduced a second bank employee from application review, then asked each of us to state our names. She reviewed the equipment, the amount, and the documents submitted. Her voice made $96,000 sound as ordinary as a weather report. "Ms. Ellison," she said, "did you authorize Ms. Mercer or Mr. Mercer to submit this application on your behalf?" Daniel's hands lay flat on the table. Vanessa had opened her binder to the projections. Colored tabs marked pages I would never sign. "No," I said. Daniel inhaled. "Did you consent to the use of your personal and tax information for this credit request?" "No." "Did you approve the equipment order or the deposit paid to Lark Commercial Supply?" "No." Paula asked if there was anything else I wanted included in my statement. I looked at Daniel. He seemed older than he had at dinner, stripped of the belief that I would eventually soften because I always had before. "He told me after the application was submitted," I said. "He expected me to approve it because the order had already been placed." "Mara," he whispered. The second employee asked him not to interrupt. I did not raise my voice. I did not explain our engagement or the keys or Lorraine's boxes. The bank needed only the boundary and who had crossed it. Paula thanked me. She told Daniel and Vanessa that the joint application would be closed. The dispute would remain under review, and no credit would be extended under the submitted file. Questions about the equipment deposit belonged between them and the vendor. Vanessa shut the binder. "So that's it?" Daniel asked. "For this application, yes," Paula said. When the call ended, he remained seated. Vanessa stood first. "Lark is keeping the deposit." "You signed the cancellation," I said. "It was contingent on financing being denied or the termination fee being paid. Daniel paid you instead." Her anger turned toward him now. "You said she'd help us close it cleanly." He did not answer. She picked up the binder. At the door, she looked back at me. "You could have built something big." I did. After she left, Daniel slid the workshop key he no longer needed toward me. It was the same one Lorraine had placed beside the breadbasket. "My equipment list is in the folder," he said. "Have whoever you hire contact me." "I will." He touched the pale mark on his finger where his own engagement ring had been, then seemed to remember he had never worn one. "My mother says you broke the family over paperwork." "Your mother can call it whatever helps her keep you." He flinched. I wished the sentence back as soon as I said it, not because it was untrue, but because I no longer wanted cruelty to be the last thing between us. "Daniel." He waited. "I loved the way you helped me in the beginning." His eyes shone. "But somewhere along the way, helping became deciding. I can't marry someone who needs my consent only after everyone else is committed." He nodded once and left his key on the table. The consequences took months, not days. The bank's review did not produce sirens or dramatic visits. It produced letters, calls, and a closed application Daniel had to explain to his employer. Lark kept $8,000 and required Daniel and Vanessa to negotiate the remaining cancellation costs. Vanessa went back into medical sales with a smaller territory and a story in which I had sabotaged her career. Lorraine repeated that story to anyone willing to hear it. Daniel and I used a mediator to separate the workshop. I bought his share of the equipment in installments. He signed off the lease after Leonard raised the rent and charged us both an administrative fee for the privilege. The hotel group walked away. Celia returned with one lobby commission, smaller than the original, and required every design approval to come directly from me. For a while, Juniper Glass became exactly what Daniel had feared: smaller, slower, and dependent on me. So I hired help. Evelyn introduced me to a bookkeeper who had no interest in my love life. My assistant fabricator took over 2 workshops a month. I sent invoices before midnight. Not always, but often enough. The front window cracked during a winter freeze. I removed it panel by panel and designed another, less elaborate than the first. Along the bottom, I built a border from pieces left over after old commissions. Amber from the hotel, green from the chapel, clear rippled glass from the first window Daniel and I restored. I took the blue bead off my key ring. In the kiln, it softened into a small, uneven circle, cloudy at the center. I set it into the new border where no one would notice it unless morning light passed through. When I finished installing the window, I locked the front door from inside and hung the brass key on its hook. The blue glass stayed in the window. It belonged to the light now.